Welcome to the 920 podcast. I'm your host, Logan Quinton, joined alongside my battery mate, Bill Minott. And this is the grand finale for this season of the 920 podcast, MLB Draft Edition. And if you've listened over the past few seasons, you could probably guess the star of the show for this episode. It's none other than Joe Doyle. He is founder of the Overslot podcast and also is tasked with digital creation and design for Future Star Series. Joe, how goes it, my man?
Good to see you guys again, man. Looking forward to talking a little Tennessee baseball.
Absolutely. How can you not with the first round, whether it's Vol commits or current Vols entering their name into the draft, chock full of them. But I'll tell you what, for the sake of time, let's get started up at the top. I know a lot of us that have covered this thing this week, we had fireworks after the 4th of July weekend with the Nationals. I know you've been asked plenty about this, but I'll pivot to this type of question. With the Nationals having the number one pick, considering the slot bonus, I think it's just north of 11. Is that right? So I'm going to give you an over-under 9.5 because I believe that's what Charlie Condon and Chase Burns signed for last year. The record deal, over-under, Mr. Overslot for the number one pick in the draft.
Over. There's too many Scott Boras clients at the top. There's no way that a Scott Boras client is going to allow that Scott Boras is going to allow the number one pick in any draft, even a down draft like this, to walk away the number one overall selection and not have a new record bonus. Now, if there's a shocking surprise and Jamie Arnold or Liam Doyle or Eli Willits ends up being the number one pick, I suppose I could see it happening. But I look at it like this. Even if that doesn't happen, the Los Angeles Angels are at 10.3 for the second pick, and the Seattle Mariners are at 9.5. I promise you the Mariners would be willing to offer 9.6 to get Cade Anderson down to 3, and so that's going to require the Angels to pay Cade Anderson 9.75. So chances of it being under 9.5, I'd put it at 10%, very low.
All right, let's get on to the Tennessee Vols, the current ones. I kind of grouped these up. Let's start with Liam Doyle, Gavin Keelan, Andrew Fisher, because those are the most likely. I mean, Doyle and Keelan are going in the first round, top half. Andrew Fisher, been a lot of talk about him. It was a fantastic watch getting to watch that guy, cover that guy's story. He's one that definitely top 43. Maybe can get it in the 20s, maybe a little above. Who is the most interesting prospect out of those three?
I think the most interesting out of those three is Gavin Keelan, because on one end, for me, I could see Gavin Keelan taking a deal as high as like 8. But I could also see Gavin Keelan slipping into like the 21 to 22 range. So like I think the variance of outcomes with Gavin Keelan is a little bit wider than Andrew Fisher. I don't think the Andrew Fisher market starts until the mid-20s. And at that point, I think there's a ton of teams that will line up for his services immediately thereafter. Like I think I've heard Baltimore at 30 and 31 are big on that one. And there's some other teams that would love a plug and play, first or third baseman that can hit. I've said this on other podcasts too. I think Andrew Fisher has as good a chance of becoming the first position player from this draft to make the big leagues as anyone. So, to answer your question, like I think Gavin Keelan, it'll be interesting to see where he goes because it'll go earlier than Fisher. But I think you're right. I think all of those guys go in the top 43, and I would put Marcus Phillips in that bucket too. I think there's next to no shot that he makes it out of the top 40 picks. I think he's going to go really good.
Let me follow up there on Gavin Keelan. I've seen a couple of different analysts say he could perhaps be the best pure hitter of the college players in the draft. How do you think the Keelan's going to translate to the wood bat? Do you think that's going to be a big transition, or do you see him doing that pretty quickly?
I honestly don't think it'll be that bad. Like when I look at Gavin Keelan and what he's been able to do and what he's been able to change about his overall game, like he went to Falmouth during the summer of 2024 and handled his own. I mean, it was over 100 plate appearances. He hit a couple of home runs. He slugged 350 on the Cape, and it was cold and it was foggy, and he held his own. But I think the fact that he changed his approach so dramatically from the time he was at Louisville to the time he was at Tennessee. I mean, he cut his chase rate in half. His contact rates went down a little bit, but his exit velos went through the roof because he was swinging at damage pitches. I think he's going to be just fine. Gavin Keelan hit a ball 111 miles an hour this year. You can't fake that. I mean, even if that turns into 108 at the big league level, that is still a guy that has average raw power, capable of hitting 14 to 18 home runs if you give him 600 plate appearances. So I think he's going to be just fine. I think the bigger development with Keelan, like I said, is the fact that he's swinging at the right pitches. And if he's able to draw up that on-base percentage because of it, it's going to be a good hitter at the pro level.
And to go on Fisher there, similar note as Keelan, it's been fantastic to watch both of those guys transfers coming into Tennessee. And speaking of Fisher, in terms of surface stats, he improved year over year from Duke to Ole Miss to Tennessee. But when you look at the advanced metrics and you look at the batted ball stuff, man, just blown up. What was it like seeing that stuff? Because you are able to take deep dives into this thing and look at the maps and the numbers. And Andrew Fisher, no one had posted the walk rate and the slug that he did in the SEC, and he just punished baseballs in the zone. What did that look like to you from afar?
I think the thing that stands out, you mentioned the metrics, and Fisher is I tweeted about this. He's an extremely efficient hitter. Like, I think when you watch Andrew Fisher swing the baseball bat and you see the home run totals and you see just how essentially juiced up his homers look. I mean, he looks like he has a ton of raw power. He really doesn't. Actually, Gavin Keelan has a higher max exit velo this year than Andrew Fisher. But the crazy thing about Fisher is I think he ran like a 63% barrel rate, which is near the top of college baseball. I mean, 63% of his hits were over 95 miles an hour. And you couple that with the fact that, if I remember correctly, his pull fly ball rate is like 44%. So he's hitting the ball hard a lot. He's pulling the ball in the air a lot. And despite not having this like upper tier, upper echelon bat speed, he gets to every single ounce of his power in games already. So, and that's why I think, like, you put Andrew Fisher in Double-A right away. I mean, maybe you put him in High A for a week, but you get him to Double-A, you get him exposed to professional good pitching, advanced breaking balls, fastballs. I don't think there's a reason to think Andrew Fisher can't be a big leaguer by June 1st of 2026, playing first base. And I honestly think he's such an efficient hitter. He might only be a 250, 260 guy, but he might hit 24 homers as a rookie. He reminds me of Austin Wells, the Yankees catcher. Yeah, of the Yankees catcher. I just they attack the baseball in the box in a very similar way.
You answered a question I had, Joe. Is, of course, Fisher came in as a third baseman, played third base pretty much all fall, never played an inning at third base during the actual season. So you see him staying as a first baseman in professional baseball?
I think there's two paths here, Bill. Okay. One is you think he's a third baseman. You want him to be a third baseman. You give him a chance to be a third baseman. You're patient with him. If that's the case, it's going to take him longer to get to the big leagues. There's a lot to learn to handle the left side of the infield, and he hasn't done it in a while. So right. I think he's capable if a team commits to giving him the reps necessary to just being, a potential 45 grade glove over there, passable. But if you want his bat, and I think just about every team that I've talked to, and I think just common sense would tell you, whoever drafts him wants the bat. They want the bat quickly. And so because of that, my gut would tell me that he's going to play first base right away. But in pregame, it wouldn't surprise me if he's taking third base reps. And in between games, he's taking third base reps. If you could even have Andrew Fisher as a late inning, versatile third base substitution to give yourself a little bit of roster utility with him, I think that would draw up his value. But again, I think he's going to play first base out of the gate.
All right, let's talk Dean Curley and AJ Russell. I'm fascinated by their positioning in this draft. Dean Curley was one that was up in the top half of the first round when you look back into the fall and when we're trying to project where he will land. AJ Russell is one that we were all anticipating the arrival in 2025 coming off the UCL brace. And it was interesting to say the least. Made a surprise 1 inning start out of nowhere that Tony just dropped in I think late February, which was much sooner. And then they scaled him back for a couple of weeks and then got going, sort of spoon feeding him 15 to 20 pitches at a time. And then it grows into a bridge reliever role where he's able to get more pitches. So, but it's a fascinating arm. We've talked about the fastball before on this podcast. So with those guys, with Curley and Russell, where do you see those guys landing and their trajectory into pro ball?
Yeah, I mean, both of these guys have such interesting stories. The story behind the AJ Russell thing and why he pitched in that game is crazy. It's probably a story for off the air, but if you ever hear it, if you ever get it, and how that went down, it's fascinating. I'll leave it at that. I've said this on another podcast. If you told me today on July 9th that AJ Russell was one of the top 50 prospects in Major League Baseball this time next year, July 9th, 2026, I'd believe you. Because he has traits about the way that he moves on the mound and how he throws that fastball that are unteachable. I mean, it is Jacob deGrom level components. So if someone can teach him a breaking ball that he's happy with, that can get hitters out, and obviously throw that changeup more often. He threw 25 innings. The guy barely pitched this year, and he hardly ever threw extended innings. So it was mostly just bully ball with the fastball. I think if he gets into the right organization, he could be a breakout star, superstar level starting pitching prospect. But there's just not enough evidence yet. The baseball card isn't big enough for teams to spend, $7 or $8 million on that at the top. So I'm very interested to see what AJ Russell's assimilation into professional ball is going to be, because I think it's going to be really good. Dean Curley is interesting. He's one of the more. He doesn't have any holes per se. He doesn't swing and miss a whole lot. He doesn't chase out of the zone. He's a selective hitter. He hits for power. He puts the ball in play a lot. But the contact quality took a step back this year. There was a lot of poor contact quality, and I think the biggest thing that pushed Dean from being a potential top 15 pick to being a guy that probably fits more in the 25 to 55 range is it just seemed like he got a little slower, a little more fleet of foot. The actions at shortstop and second base and third base were just okay. And so I think people are going from, Dean Curley could potentially play shortstop. Someone should give him a shot at the next level to, I really want to find a way for Dean Curley to learn second base, third base, to provide value with the glove. I think he's always going to hit. The comp that I have for him is Brandon Drury of the Angels, who has had a really solid career, a really steady career. Never a spectacular player, but just a guy that teams value, whether it be off the bench or in a full-time role as a solid role 45 third baseman. So he's a very, very good player. I just think some deficiencies showed up this season.
Let's go to the Pacific Northwest, your neck of the woods, Joe. I hear that is there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings up in that area, and there's a Vol commit, Cruz Schoolcraft, that you've got a good look at. Would you put him into that Sasquatch category? Because it kind of feels like this dude is something else.
Yeah, man. I can't say I have seen 6'8" left-handed up to 100 many times in my life. And, for a kid like Cruz that is that big, that's that lanky and limmy, to have the body control that he does, to throw strikes, to repeat, it's pretty fascinating. I'm very interested to see if he goes pro, because my understanding is, Tennessee has committed a lot of resources to him. He wants to be a volunteer. Tony is really excited to have him in the program. I think Cruz would have as good an argument as anyone to pitch extended innings in 2026. I don't know if he would start. I mean, there's still the mountain of learning a good breaking ball, a repeatable breaking ball, but it's a fastball and it's a splitter that can get guys out right now. He'd be really, really tough on right-handed hitters. I'll say that. So I think chances are better than not that he goes pro, because it's just tremendous clay. And a really just, I interviewed him in April maybe, and I put it up on YouTube that if anybody wants to go check it out. But one of the most pragmatic, thoughtful, just really disciplined people that I've ever met. So structured from 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. with everyday life. And I think that's going to take him a very, very long ways in learning what it takes to be an elite pitcher. There's some things that he needs to learn, but I mean, the limit, the sky is just, it's so high for that guy.
With Anson Siebert already on campus, the thought of Cruz Schoolcraft, and then Cam Appenzeller, I think Tony's trying to build a front court bigger than Rick Barnes has. This is insane. Could you imagine if you had two of those guys coming from the mound, how scary that would be?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you had Marcus Phillips for one more year at power forward, 6'5", 6'6", 260. I mean, you're going to lose Phillips. You're going to lose Russell. That's 13 feet of pitcher right there. So you got to replace it somehow. I do think Appenzeller is going to end up being a Vol, and he's going to be a very, very good Vol. I'll say this right now. I think Cam Appenzeller is better positioned to earn a weekend role at Tennessee right now than is Cruz Schoolcraft. I think Schoolcraft has the higher ceiling, of course, but Appenzeller last summer was, if not the most polished pitcher that I saw. He was on the short list. I mean, it's 3 or 4 pitches. It's feel for shape. It's strikes. It's angles. It's tremendous body, like frame mobility. Like I'll say this for Appenzeller. It's a shame that basketball went so deep into the spring and it didn't let him ramp up, because, by the time his season was over, he was touching like 93. So I've seen him up to 96. He could be disgusting.
How can that factor in to a top prospect like that that's dedicated also to another sport, spring sport?
In terms of their draft stock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you're an area scout and you're taking your scouting report to your cross-checker, and your cross-checker's taking it to the scouting director. And if he was 87 to 90 for the first 4 weeks that you saw him, and the ramp-up was slow, you can't ignore that, despite the fact that a lot of guys did get to see him 92 to 93, 92 to 94 last summer. You don't know what has changed between now and then. Maybe his body stiffened up. Maybe that's the reason why he's 70, 87 to 90 sometimes, So you can't ever take anything for granted. You don't know where his durability is at. But I look at it like this with Cam Appenzeller. He's a +2 handicap on the golf course. He can dunk a basketball, and he throws 95 from the left side, and he's 6'5". Chances are probably better than not that he has not lost his athleticism, and it's just he's a victim of his circumstance.
And he's 18, 19 years old doing all that.
He's 18.
Yeah, that's got to be
stringy as hell too. Stringy as hell. Like the kid's got 25 pounds of sandwich meat coming on him like that. I mean, it's not going to be hard.
Yeah, one of the things that you mentioned, those guys coming in and perhaps not being ready to be a weekend starter in the SEC. One thing I see is with the new 34 scholarship limit, some of those guys are going to have to come in and be ready to be a weekend starter in the SEC.
Look at the transfer portal. I mean, the amount of how many guys did Tennessee lose this year? The last I saw was like 9. LSU was losing. LSU was losing players left and right like pitchers. Crazy. I mean, just pitchers. The fact of the matter is there's only so many innings. And I'll tell you what, if you come in and at a minimum you're not throwing strikes, there's not going to be a spot for you, because not only are you going to be replaced by next year's freshmen, you're going to be replaced by this year and next year's transfer portal guys. Right. And I think the bar, especially at Tennessee and at LSU and at Texas and these blue blood big programs where they've got the resources to bring in as many bullets as they want. They can't wait. You can't sit around and wait.
Yeah.
So, like that's why I mentioned like Schoolcraft could come in and potentially be a high leverage reliever right away. Maybe he starts on Tuesdays or something. But I'll say this, man, it speaks to just how special Tegan Kuntz might be to lock down the role that he did as a freshman. Granted, a 20-year-old freshman, but the bar is way higher now.
Yeah, and Kuntz is having a great summer on the Cape, by the way. He's
phenomenal.
He's a beast.
Yeah.
He's a beast. He looks like a first rounder.
All right, let's roll on to big league organization, although some would say they're not really playing like it. It's the Atlanta Braves. The MLB draft is in hot Atlanta, and the Braves are far from being hot. And it's we've talked about it before on the show, how the depth of the farm system, position player wise, is so bleak, and it's going to take a few drafts to even kind of get hopeful, I think. But like, where does it start for this year? I know we joke about another year, another draft where the Braves select a guy with high velo, spin, any kind of pitcher really. But Joe, what's your take on the Braves, what they should do, and how they can replenish the farm over the next couple of years in the draft?
I mean, I don't know how much you guys talk about this, but I think they should capitalize on the trade deadline personally. There's a lot of guys on this team that are under contract for a very long time. I'm not comfortable speaking on, who doesn't fit the organization anymore, who could be moved to bring in prospects to save a little bit of money. I live up here in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
Seattle, the Mariners have more position prospects than they know what to do with. And you know what Seattle needs more than anything? A Matt Olson or a Ronald Acuna or an Ozzie Albies or name any of them. Like, Seattle can plug and play all over the diamond. So it starts with the trade deadline. I wouldn't move everybody because it's an organization that's championship quality when they're playing well. But I think it's something that you consider. As far as this draft goes, this is one of the deeper drafts, at least at the top in recent memory, in terms of the dearth of high school shortstops. And for my money, I scouted Jose Perdomo when he was an amateur, when he was an international. He's not a shortstop for me. He's a third baseman. So I don't know where the next shortstop is for the Atlanta Braves. And I don't know where the next, outfielder is, for that matter, for the Atlanta Braves. So this would be a year for me where I would sit back, I would wait, I would see what kind of falls into your lap there at pick 24. I think the easy, lazy thing to do is to look at a guy like Gage Wood or a guy like Zach Root and say, this is what we do. This is what we're good at. This is what we love. From this chair, I would look at it and go, all right, we got a kid in our backyard by the name of Daniel Pierce who is really good. He can really hit. He can hit for some power. He can play the shortstop position. It's a big arm. Why don't we take that kid and then fill out our organization with pitching in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7, like every other advanced organization seems to be doing right now? Everyone's getting their pitchers. I just watched a kid named Cam Schlittler with the Yankees throw 100 miles an hour from Northeastern starting tonight against Seattle. So I don't know if pitching in the first round is the way to go in 2025. But if you were ever wanting to fill out the middle of your, the middle of the diamond with prospects, this is a good draft to start doing it.
100% agree with you. And on Pierce, would that possibly be an over slot deal?
I would just be surprised if the Braves decided to overslot a player and pull him down to pick 24 and like pay him away from, the whoever at pick 19, pick 20, pick 21. Like, I would be surprised if they wanted someone so badly that they overpaid to get him, because here's the thing that you and I just were talking about. The Braves need quantity and quality. So even if it's not, if it's not Daniel Pierce, why don't you just wait back and maybe you take Tate Southacene out of Nevada, and then you pay him $200,000 underslot, and then you go get another one, go get another, center field prospect. Go get Alec Blair, the kid that's committed to play basketball at Oklahoma that's 6'5" and plays center field. Just get a little bit creative. Go get some players that, can move out from the middle of the field and develop some bats, man. Like the Braves haven't developed a bat since Michael Harris.
All right, Joe, one last one, and this is coming from our neck of the woods right here in East Tennessee. Want to talk about a Vol commit for the next class, the guy that's eligible next summer in MLB's draft, Mikey Teasley of Oak Ridge. What do you have on this guy? What do you think? Because it's fascinating. I got to get a live look at him, which is kind of weird because my day-to-day I'm in and around high school sports, but I looked out and I got to see him. He threw 8 innings, a 1-run ball, and actually did not win that game, surprisingly, but was phenomenal. You don't over here off Emory Road, Joe, like you don't see mid-90s, like a guy holding mid-90s and enormous sweeper, and also a guy that can mash. What do you have on Teasley?
So I haven't seen Teasley in person yet. I am seeing him this summer, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I've done a good amount of film study on him. I've looked at the data. For me, it looks like a high leverage reliever as we sit here now, 16 months before he shows up onto campus, 14 months before he shows up onto campus. But the thing that blows me away with Teasley is that kid can rip through seams of a baseball like it's nobody's business. I mean, the breaking ball has a chance to be an absolute hammer. He's got some inefficiency in his stride and his lead leg block that I think is going to have him throwing even harder. I think this is a kid that we should talk about that's going to be 95 to 96, maybe grabbing an 8 in the 7th inning of a ball game. And he looks to me like a guy that's going to break some barrels. He's got a pretty nasty sinking fastball. I do, based on what I saw, and granted it is limited. It's like 13 innings pitched. I do question a little bit the fastball command. We're going to see whether or not he can sustain that and maybe come to Tennessee and start on Tuesdays in 2027 and kind of work his way through the kinks. But the first thing that comes to me with Teasley is that breaking ball. It's gross.
All right, before we let you go, Joe, I'll give you 2 words only or less to describe this year's draft.
2 words to describe this year's draft.
You can just go with 1 if you want.
How about 3? Is it over?
I'll take an over. I'll take an over slot deal. Okay.
Yeah, over slot. Yeah, my words would be, is it over yet? That would be my words, because man, the finish line is always such a blur for me. I've been writing up so many players all year. I've been writing up players for this draft, for like 20 months now, and it always comes to fruition here. I wish the college bats would have blossomed like they should have. It's a frustrating year for college bats, but in general, man, like I guess this is way more than 2 words, but good year for high school shortstops. Pretty darn good year for college pitching, and we'll see who can find a diamond in the rough after like the 3rd round.
Thanks so much for your time, Joe. On your way out the door, tell the folks where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Joe Doyle, MILB on Twitter. If you are a draftnik like me, I've got a twice-a-week podcast called Overslot. It's on Patreon. And then the top 615 prospects in the draft you can find at futurestarseries.com. And my last mock draft, where I'm actually throwing a dart here, trying to get something right, will come out on Saturday.
Awesome stuff, man. Can't wait to see you this weekend down in hot Atlanta. Safe travels. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. 4 years married tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Awesome stuff, man.
And Joe, you do a great job with the draft. And I don't see how you do it. So many prospects out there, but somehow, some way, you guys find a way to cover them all.
Well, Bill, I don't sleep.
That's the key.
Well, I don't know if you have children yet, but once you do, you won't sleep much at all. So you'll.
I'm gonna have to reinvent the wheel there. But no, you guys are the best. I look forward to this podcast every year. Keep doing good work, and hey, go Vols.
There we go. Awesome stuff, Joe. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you. Be good.
Well, Bill, that's a lot to digest in 30 minutes.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting weekend for Tennessee fans. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of surprise with the current players that we expect to go, and but it's will be a close watch on some of the prospects that are coming in. And I've heard Tony a couple of different times in the interviews the last few days, and I think he expects a couple of those questionable kids to make it to campus. So,
yeah.
Keeping our fingers crossed, hopefully some of those guys will get here.
And, it's kind of we're in that new age. We're still at the beginning stages of this new age of NIL, and with as it pertains to college baseball, the roster number that you mentioned, and there's just all these dynamics at play. And hey, we saw it last season, last draft, where big time first rounder William Schmidt pulls his name out of the draft and lands at LSU. And obviously he was a Louisiana native, and I'm sure that came into play and wanted to play at home. But no, I think Joe's right. I think there is some serious traction with a couple of these guys, whether it be Schoolcraft or Appenzeller. So, man, that would be huge. That would, when you factor in landing just one of those guys, one of those pitchers that we've talked about, on top of an amazing transfer portal. I mean, just a few weeks ago, like Joe mentioned, Tennessee had 9 pitchers hit the portal, and you're Tony's talked about it, that you're fighting all these other clubs. And man, within the past couple of weeks, you have Landon Mack and Blanco from Virginia. And then with the hopes of one of these highly touted high school arms that could be ready to perform and get outs from you for day one. That's huge.
Yeah. And, one of the things that's, I've had discussions with a couple of people is, the college baseball, especially at the level that Tennessee is at now. You take a kid coming out of high school, are they going to be better, especially with the NIL, if they can get a decent NIL coming in, are they going to be better off, toiling in the low minors for 2 or 3 years, or are they going to be better off coming to an SEC program with the facilities, no cheap bus rides or long bus rides overnight, none of that stuff. And they're getting ready so quickly. Once they do get into pro ball after that 3rd year, they're getting to the big leagues so quickly now that from a time standpoint, there's not a lot of difference between going and spending 3 years in the minors or going and spending 3 years in the SEC at this point. So that's made college baseball a much more attractive offer for those highly drafted kids or potentially highly drafted kids. So I think we're going to start seeing more and more of those highly thought of kids ending up opting for college baseball like we have. We've seen a few of them, as you mentioned, the last several years, but I think we're going to start seeing more and more of those.
Anything else that Joe mentioned as it pertains to Vol commits or the Vols in the draft in general that struck the portal with you?
No, not really. About what I expected. It's we've heard Andrew Fisher was one that I was really interested in, and and where does he play? And Joe made a really good point there. Is you play him where you have to get him to the big leagues, because you need to get that back to the big leagues. And Curley, again, that's an interesting situation. He is one that they're going to have to figure out where he best fits and has a chance to advance quickly and help the team. So those were the primary questions that I had. AJ, we've heard some things on him, as far as his arm, is his arm sound, and it sounds like it is from at this point. So I think he's going to be in a pretty good position. And Phillips is the one I'm really interested in seeing where he goes, because we didn't see a lot of him till this year, but what we saw for the most part this year, we just saw so much potential. And that a guy that can throw 100 consistently and has the slider that he has, if he can come up with that, that one more pitch he's going to be able to throw for strikes consistently and get swing and misses on, he's got a chance to get to the big leagues, I think, pretty quickly and be a very, very good big league pitcher for a long time.
Yeah, I'm fascinated both he and Russell, because, obviously with Russell coming in, beginning his college campaign with, once he got started, It was like, oh wow, like this is amazing. And like Phillips, being that, from South Dakota and the path that he took, Iowa Western, and then even his first year at Tennessee, I think the only regular season outing he had in the 24 season was 5 pitches. I think that one out at Kentucky, so like his path is just so fascinating to me, because this year, the fact that he was able to hold down that starter role was massive. And like you said, he showed potential with a couple of different pitches. And so when he can get that pitch mix, I think the fastball development is there. With the secondaries, if a couple of those come along, watch out. He's a guy that I think most, when I look at I don't look at them all the time, but some of these other prospect boards, you may see Phillips anywhere from, I don't know, 60 to 70 or something like that, maybe a little bit higher. But like Joe mentioned, that's not the first time I've heard his name in the same breath as the top 43, which, that would add in the compensatory picks and the tax slots and everything like that. So fascinating stuff. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. I think this year Tennessee will break the program record for draft picks, because let's not forget, like, you've got guys like Reese Chapman, Dalton Bargo, lurking back there that are gonna be taken in some of those deeper rounds on day 2. The draft is 2 days this time around, so you'll have the top 3 rounds the first day, and then after that it's all day 2. And I think Tennessee will kind of, I don't know, it might be pretty split. I don't know exactly in half, but it'll be an even balance between a lot of guys on day 1 and a lot of guys on day 2.
Yeah. And one other thing, we were talking about the Braves and some of the what do they do here at the trade deadline? And, one of the things I think that are attractive about several of those Braves players that have the long-term contracts, those were contracts that they signed when they were young players. So we're not talking about, a ton of money that a team is going to have to put out for 2 or 3 more years to have those guys under contract. So, that might be a way to, quickly for the Braves to build some depth in the organization, because, frankly, the Braves organization it's absolutely empty right now. There's just not a lot of talent there. So they've got to do whatever they can as far as I'm concerned. And, the last I heard was that, we'll see what the Braves do the next 2 weeks to, before the deadline to decide whether they're buyers or sellers. Well, I think we saw what happened last night in a minor league stadium. They gave up 3 home runs in the first, and it was pretty appropriate they were playing in a minor league stadium last night.
Home Run Derby is supposed to be next week in Atlanta, not in Sacramento against Atlanta. Yeah, that was it's rough. I mean, the writing's on the wall, and I think just for reference to kind of add some more names for those that are interested. I know we got a lot of Braves fans listening. Joe mentioned Gage Wood, I believe. That's who I have. Dan and I did a staff draft mock last week, and I had even numbers. So number 22, the Braves, that was in my hands, and Gage Wood was available. It sounds like he's probably not going to be available at that spot, but the way it laid out for us, he was. But I also agree with what Joe says. Like this, if there was ever a year to end and I get it, they've actually been pretty good. They've had a little bad luck with pitching development because of injury, but aside from that, I mean, and landing Cam Caminiti last year, I mean, good grief, that was out of nowhere, and I think that's going to be an awesome pick. But if there was ever a year to kind of lay off the fastball and switch to something else, it's this year, because like Joe said, there are options here. Play to the strength of the class, and you could have. I'm hearing Josh Hammond. I've heard Josh Hammond being connected to the Braves as someone that they like. He's drawn a lot of Austin Riley comps. He's from Wesleyan Christian High School in North Carolina, so he's in that Braves country. And then Daniel Pierce, man, Joe got me excited about that. The guy from Mill Creek, shortstop. And sounds like he's going to be a true shortstop, not just a guessing point, left side or up the middle. And I'd be surprised if he's there, but if he is, I think that'd be a phenomenal pick as well.
Yeah, and let me back up on something I said. I said their system is empty. It's empty at the upper levels. The lower levels, there's some good talent there, but mainly it was high school talent. It's players signed out of high school, so they're still 3-4 years away from being ready to go. And Braves can't wait 3 or 4 years. If they wait 3 or 4 years, they're going to be bottom feeders for a while, and it's just going to take way too long to get back to a competitive stage. So they need to do something quick.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I also agree with the trade line positioning. I'll believe it when I see it, but it's a quicker path, because otherwise, the way this thing's going, you could dig yourself, even if you have an exceptional draft the next 2 years at the big league level, you could be in that hole to where it's going to be year 3 or 4 from now to where you see fruition. So interesting to see, Bill. Well, I'll see if I can pull some strings this weekend. When I get down there Sunday, I'll go and protest, do whatever I have to do, because I will start contending that the host site, the organization that has the host site for the MLB draft, that should be worth 2 compensatory picks in, let's say, the top 70. I will campaign for that. That maybe that'll help. But regardless, I'll bring cookies with me, so I'll be good.
You're going to be in Atlanta. Pick me up a couple of chili dogs and some onion rings and a frosted orange at the Varsity while you're there. That's what I want.
Yeah. So I'm funny you said that. So I'm working on my personal mock. I do one. I do not have the capacity to do 3 or 4. Gosh, there's probably some guys that do more than that, but there'll be a varsity reference in there. So
there we go. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Bill. Well, it was good to see you again after a week off.
Thank you.
I'll let you know how it goes. Stay tuned to the 920 podcast. I will have some stuff up on social at LDQ Sports on X, and then I'll probably post some stuff on TikTok and Instagram. Been a while since I've gotten that thing ramped up, but I'll be down there covering day 1 of the draft. So going to take some pictures. It's going to be interesting. It's at the Roxy beside the Battery. So interested to see how they how that whole thing is controlled, and excited for it. I'm just pumped up to get to witness the event in Braves country. So be sure to follow, and also Baseball Prospect Journal. Like I said, we've got a ton of prospect material content up on the website, baseballprospectjournal.com, and I'll have my own personal mock up soon in the coming days. For Bill Minded, I'm Logan Quinton. It's the 920 podcast. Folks, it's been a great season. We will see you on the other side of the MLB draft.
See you in the Hot Stove League.